Welcome to Parent University with Coach A. This first episode, we are going to be talking about tips to prepare your student athlete for this preseason of spring basketball. Talk about summer a little bit later in another episode, but tip number one will be preparing your student athlete for coachability. As a parent, it's essential to prepare your player to be coachable. What does that mean? Number one, encouraging them to listen and to be responsive at all times, and of course, respectful to their coaches. Number two, teaching them to take constructive feedback and use it to improve. There will be quite a bit of information conveyed to them, and a cadence is essential when it comes from your standpoint as a parent. So a lot of times you will probably be sitting in practice and you'll be able to observe some of the terminologies, some of the ask fors, some of the things that are look fors, and the tone sometimes will be intense, and then sometimes it will be far more passive, just so they can get a variety of what they're going to see at the next level. But the content and the nature of it will be constructive feedback. And so that is probably some of the conversations that need to be had. There will be things that are said to your student athlete that I'm sure that you all probably say to them at home. Hence, goes back to that old saying that it takes a village. Then the next one is helping them develop and grow a mindset and a love for learning. Many of them will have maybe one aspect of the game that they love and or like, or perhaps they just love the game and altogether. And so they'll be able to have a great mindset and effort about every time they step into a practice, a tournament, or just a event where they're able to get better as far as skills or boot camp, whatever have you. So helping them to develop and grow that mindset, even correlating that to your real world work experiences, will be very helpful. Lastly, encourage them to ask questions, and seek guidance, right, from their coaches. You have a wealth of knowledge coming from all of the coaches. You will be able to read bios and all that good stuff for those of you that haven't done your research already. But encourage them to ask questions. It's not enough to merely just listen and respond. It's also important, a part of coachability, to be able to ask questions and seek guidance. There will be checkpoints often that are checking for understanding. There will be a drill or a concept that is covered, and you'll hear me ask very often to check for understanding. Do we understand? Do we have any questions? And so that is going to be key in you reiterating that as well. So by preparing your player, your student athlete to be coachable, you'll help them build a strong foundation of success, especially coming out in the preseason as we are undoing some of the habits that they have from school ball. Parent tip number two, parent behavior and involvement. So we have a code of conduct that has been signed off on, but as a parent, it's crucial to understand your role in your players' preseason, and it's to consider a couple of these bullet points that I'm going to go over. One of them is being supportive and positive, but also giving your student athlete the space to grow and develop. They're going to be taught a lot of information. And so being supportive of that will probably be, again, reiterating, maybe asking them questions to see if they remember or recall. And then just any type of positive, constructive feedback, on top of what they're receiving is always great and allows them the space to grow and develop. And then don't forget to let them make mistakes, right? We're all guilty of it, of wanting our kid to make sure that they're doing things the way that an authoritative figure, a coach, someone is asking them to do it. So that's all great, but let's just make sure that we are able to support them in this process with grave detail. Also, avoiding over involvement or criticism. I think it's pretty understood. I think we have a great group of parents, and so I haven't observed anything that would hinder or cause more unnecessary stress or pressure at this point. But also, it is a preseason. But just know that we're just getting started as we get ready to go into some early tournaments, to keep a positive mindset as well for yourself. And then focus on your players' development and their well-being rather than just their performance. And that's a lot of what's going to happen in the preseason here. And that is looking at and assessing the individual athlete skill development and how well they are able to balance their emotional intelligence, their EQ, and their IQ of the game. And then lastly, performance. And that will change, of course, as the season progresses, but just so that you have an understanding in depth of this tip. And then lastly, communicating effectively with myself and other coaches and other parents. So we're all on the same page. We talked about this in the first parent meeting, but that is always a great thing. And then lastly, tip number 3. Encouraging physical and mental preparation. I cannot emphasize this enough. As a parent, it is essential to encourage your student athlete to prepare physically and mentally and emotionally for this preseason. It's a long season, lots of games, but to prepare physically will mean stretching, eating properly, dieting. A lot of those tips are going to be shared as well. Enough rest versus sleep. And then all the other things that come with it as far as recovery goes, fine-tuning the body, being a student of the game that is being offered to you all in the Train Up a Champion Lab, but also just looking at, aside from obviously skills, is their conditioning, right? In order to go into a skill development session work, it's important to do strength training and conditioning in order to do those things that all work together to build up your student athlete holistically. And then encouraging them to make sure that they have fuel. I can't express that enough for their body. You can get some of that information, the proper vitamins or whatever have you, the proper hydration from your pediatrician. I will be sharing some of those different products that are NCAA approved to assist with that process, but you're more than welcome to go with whatever it is that works for you. If you have your student athlete has allergies or things that do not work for their diet. And then teaching them stress reduction. There's a difference between negative stress and positive stress. We want to work more on the side of eustress, which is positive, and that is breathing. It's taking time alone and meditating and helping them manage pressure and anxiety. And so, listening to things that build them up. You'll hear me talk some about affirmations. There'll be different words that I will share with them to just kind of prepare their mindset before, during, and after games. And sometimes that may be just, outside of games. No, I'm not saying go eat ice cream, but take your mind off the game sometimes. A lot of times we want to talk about, the last game and just continue to pound it in and, you made these mistakes and you made this many turnovers and that kind of thing. And right now in the preseason, it's really, it's way too early for that. And then also there's still going to be a way to do that throughout the season as well. So encourage them again to do all of these things that will foster a space of growth and development. I'm going to come back with some other tips that will expound upon this on a later episode. But for this introductory episode, thanks for tuning in with Coach A. Hopefully these are tips that will help prepare your student athlete for the preseason. And we're going to have a great season and first tournament with IFN. Thank you.